Now, there's a Commanders game coming up. Are you worried about the Commanders at all? Do you have any concerns about this Commanders game? Or I feel like a lot of people are like, I don't even want to talk about the Commanders because it's going to be such an easy win.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel like that, which is fine. Like I always say, like it's okay for us fans to overlook a team as long as the 49ers aren't doing that. What I find, I guess, like could potentially be challenging is the fact that Jacoby Brissett, you haven't seen him too much in this Commanders team and how they're going to want to use him and all that. So very small sample size with this team that you have to prepare for, right, on a short week. I actually am glad, and I appreciate Ron Rivera for announcing that Brissett would be starting yesterday. It was pretty early in the week, all things considered.
Yeah, right?
So it gave the 49ers, I guess, more chance to just focus on him. That's the only thing I can think of in this game. 49ers have been in that situation before this season, so I'm not too worried about it. And ultimately, the talent gap between the two teams is just so large. Like, even if there is anything fluky that happens that maybe benefits the Commanders, like the 49ers are still very much in control of their destiny in this game. So no, I'm not worried about the Commanders. If anything, I'm worried, I'm worried for the Commanders because they're about to get their ass beat on, like, the 49ers are going to be angry, right? And they're going to take out all their frustration out on the poor Commanders.
49ers potentially getting injured in this game then? Because it kind of feels like that's the only... It feels like it would be nice if the Commanders could just be like, we're tanking, and the 49ers could, like, skip this game. Because the only, like...
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But
going, in and out of this game is going to be, one, can they win for the first seed? But it seems obvious that unless something goes horribly, I think that Brock Purdy could throw 5 interceptions again and they could win. So 4 interceptions. Sorry, the last one was on Sam. But I'm not worried about the Commanders winning, but I am worried about injuries because it does feel like this team has had a lot of cluster injuries on that defensive line. Now it's safety, the O-line, going into the playoffs. That's what's going to be most important. So, little bit worried about that. Would you stick anyone who's on the edge? I know Eric Armstead, they did bring in Sebastian Joseph Day potentially as like a replacement for him because he was a full-blown starter. He wasn't like on a practice squad or anything. For Eric Armstead, Kyle Shanahan seemed like he had no idea who was going to be in at safety with Jair Brown. Now, I was thinking, I know Jair Alexander for the Packers, he had that same MCL strain. Now, I feel like there's grades to this, but he's been playing with it all season. So I don't think Jair Brown, like if it was a playoff game, potentially he would be able to go. Now, I wouldn't press anyone who's on the edge this week. Do you feel like, even though this is a must-win game, do you think that you would push anyone who maybe...
No, I wouldn't. I think you just have to trust in your depth. I think the playoffs mean far more than potentially losing this game because, some key guys weren't in there, right? So Jair Brown, like Kyle Shanahan did call it concerning, which is, same word he used for Eric Armstead. Armstead probably on the outside looking in as well for these next 2 weeks, I'd imagine. And so that's kind of the worry. The good thing is it seems like Logan Ryan is going to be able to step in, and Steve Wilkes had some good things to say about him, about how he did in practice. And so I'm excited to see him, but like if you suffer any more injuries at that safety spot, I mean, who do you have going in? I saw someone
like if you're a linebacker and you can play safety, you're going to do it.
It's crazy. So, yeah, they're at that point, and that's not where you want the 49ers to be. So, Actually, like right now, I just checked. There's some practice notes for today, Thursday, and
Okay.
Aaron Banks still not practicing with his toe injury. So Jair Brown also not. Eric Armstead, Ross Dwelly, Juwan Jennings, Jalen Moore not practicing.
That was
Trent,
a
Debo,
big.
and Orrin. Yeah, Trent, Debo, and Orrin Burks are practicing though. So that's good.
I like that a lot. That's very good. Trent being the most concerning out of all of those, so it is good that that groin strain doesn't seem like it was like something super super serious, maybe more of a tweak. Um, Aaron Banks, that's scary with his turf toe. I feel like he's been playing through that all season, but and I know Chris Forster said that same thing. He said it was a less it was like a re-aggravation of that injury, but less serious. And now that he knows he can play through that, he knows what it feels like. He's a little bit better with that. And that's the one hard thing when we're talking about who to sit and who to not sit, even against the Commanders. When it comes to offensive line, you got to protect your quarterback. So those are guys that you want to play if they can go. Just because Brock Purdy getting injured in a Commanders game would be the worst. Now, you kind of said something. You said it would be better to lose this game, which is something that we're not even like super thinking is possible, but it'd be better to lose this game and lose the first seed and then have the injuries. And that kind of reminded me yesterday on the Warner House podcast, which is the podcast that Fred Warner does. He kind of was asked about that. He said he would rather, or not he would rather, but he said like getting a win matters less than the style of football that they are playing going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that he was more concerned with how the defense has been giving up more points than like they were just able to squeak out a win. Now he did say like obviously it's always better and you always want to win or learn from you want to learn from wins, not from losses. But I did find that kind of interesting for like from like a player perspective. He was like, "What's this? The first seed is less important than all of our guys being healthy and in the right mindset." Do you feel like that first seed is necessary for the 49ers to win a Super Bowl?
I don't think it's necessary. I think with the injuries that they're dealing with how physical they are, the wear and tear of the season, I think it would be important for them to get that 1 week and come out of it strong. Because I don't think they'd be the kind of team to come out flat after that. I mean, you recall the bye week earlier this year. That certainly helped them get back into a good groove. Different circumstances then because of the way they were going into the bye week after 3 straight losses. But I understand what Fred's saying, and
being beat up because Kyle, what did he say? He said that they looked like tired and slow and beat up.
Yeah,
and they kind of, different. I feel like are showing signs of that now.
I have to imagine like it's kind of more of the same. So anytime you could get rest, like that is important. But I do understand what Fred's saying, like having that. Going into the playoffs with the head of steam is basically what the 49ers want. And like you don't want to lose that and be earned a 1 seed and have a bye week when you're kind of like falling flat even before that. Like you kind of want to be able to ride that wave, right? Like I kind of think that's what he's saying.
They were just I maybe I didn't like preface the conversation enough, but because it's him and his wife, and it's a really casual thing, and she is more like of a fan, obviously. So she was like, "Well, maybe it's more of a wake up call. It's better to lose against the Ravens than to lose against the Rams." And that's when he was kind of like, "You want to win them all, but yes, there is something to like going in with like upwards trajectory versus not."
Yeah. I think that's all he's saying, which is there's nothing wrong with that. He's not saying that the number 1 seed isn't important to the team or anything like that. I think, he's just saying that he wants to make sure that, they are on that upwards trajectory. So
do you think that they need it? Like, cause you do hear like fans say that like, oh, this is a wake up call, or maybe, maybe they were a little overconfident going into this game, something like that. Do you think that there is positives that you can take away from from a loss like this, or do you think it's more one of those games where you just have to sweep it and go on to the next game?
Yeah, I mean, I think for this 49ers team, it's nice to get a wake-up call every now and then. It's hard to stay like super motivated for a full season, especially like when you've done this so many times before. And yes, you're trying to get to the same place every time, but the seasons are really long and you're doing the same thing over and over again, basically. Um, and so, yeah, it's tough. Like what I have to imagine it is. So, yeah, I think the getting a wake up call and having now to win these next two creates some urgency that maybe they didn't have before, you know? And also going up against these AFC teams, like the record that they've had, I don't know if it's because these games haven't been as important to the seeding that it's like maybe it doesn't carry the same weight and urgency as some of the other big NFC games this year have. So it's always nice to just get a reason to pick up the energy and
Definitely extra
hopefully
motivation.
that could be what rides them on a high wave into the playoffs, right?
Completely agree.